let's tackle a surprising twist in the electric vehicle world: the unexpected surge in charging costs, surpassing the expenses of traditional gas. Also, let's unravel the reasons behind this shift and explore the factors contributing to the rising price of charging an electric car. If you're a green energy enthusiast or considering an electric vehicle, this video is a must-watch. Let's dive into the surprising reasons behind why juicing up your electric car might now cost more than filling up with gas. It is true that, in certain cases, charging an electric vehicle might now be more expensive than filling up a gas-powered vehicle. Here's a summary of some of the major causes of this. Variations in the energy market. Natural gas prices have soared due to the current global energy crisis, which is being fueled by a number of causes such as the conflict in Ukraine and disruptions in the supply chain. This consequently affects the cost of electricity, driving up the cost per kilowatt-hour of EV charging. Peak energy costs may rise as a result of local grid pressure caused by an increase in the use of electric vehicles and an increasing reliance on power for heating and cooling during severe weather events. In some places or at particular times of the day, this dynamic may be very noticeable. Infrastructure gaps for charging. Even though the infrastructure for EV charging is growing quickly, accessibility and cost vary by location. Usually more expensive than slower home charging, fast charging facilities are found in urban areas. Longer excursions may need the use of pricey public stations due to the lack of charging choices in rural areas, similar to surge pricing for taxis. Some charging networks use dynamic pricing models, in which charges change in response to variables like real-time demand and grid pressure. This may result in unforeseen elevated expenses for charging in regions with heavy traffic or during peak hours. Another one is efficiency factors for EV batteries. Longer driving ranges are typically provided by EVs with larger batteries, but charging them typically requires more energy, which raises the price. Furthermore, batteries in earlier EV models may be less efficient, necessitating more frequent charging and perhaps increasing overall expenses. Fast acceleration and hard braking are examples of aggressive driving techniques that can dramatically raise energy usage and charging expenses. In a similar vein, harsh weather such as frigid winters or scorching summers can reduce battery efficiency and necessitate more frequent charging. Long-term cost comparisons tend to favor EVs, even if there are circumstances in which EV charging can be more expensive than gas. Government subsidies, reduced maintenance costs, and maybe less expensive off-peak charging might tilt the scales in favor of electric vehicles. EV charging costs are steadily declining due to the rapid developments in battery technology, the expansion of the charging infrastructure, and the increasing integration of renewable energy sources. It's anticipated that the cost of operating an electric vehicle will decrease with time in comparison to a gas-powered car. In certain situations, especially when using fast-charging alternatives like DC charging, charging an electric car presently might be more expensive than filling up the tank. The price increase disclosed by EV, the second-largest public charging operator in Australia, has brought attention to this situation. Let's dissect the circumstances. Due to a number of variables, including supply chain interruptions, the crisis in Ukraine, and increased demand, energy prices are rising globally. Prices at public charging stations are directly impacted by this, which in turn affects electricity costs. DC charging, which is generally quicker than home charging, is usually more expensive since it requires more infrastructure and running expenses. EV increased its DC charging rates for the second time in a year, primarily attributing the increase to growing wholesale electricity costs. Depending on the service and area, the new costs can vary. However, some reports show a 50% increase. Even if EV's price increase puts prices closer to those of petrol, it's crucial to remember that home charging, which is frequently less expensive than public choices, is still typically far less expensive than gas. For electric vehicles, the total cost per kilometer can still be less than that of gas-powered cars, depending on factors including driving patterns, local gas prices, and EV efficiency. Because EVs require less maintenance and may have consistent energy rates as opposed to fluctuating gas prices, they continue to have an edge over gas in the long run. It is challenging to forecast electricity prices in the future, and it is unclear when costs will stabilize. Events in geopolitics and the uptake of renewable energy sources will be important factors. The adoption of EVs may be hampered by rising charging rates, especially for those on a tight budget. Additionally, it can encourage users to charge at home and emphasize how crucial it is to have more accessible and reasonably priced charging infrastructure. Ultimately, even while EV's pricing increase highlights the possibility that, in some circumstances, EV charging expenses could equal gas prices, it's important to take into account the larger picture and long-term financial benefits of electric vehicles. A number of variables will determine how affordable EVs will be in the future, and the story is still developing and complicated. Australia's EV drivers are suffering greatly as a result of EV's most recent pricing increase, especially those who depend on public charging stations. Let's examine the matter more thoroughly. EV implemented a 10% price increase for all pricing options in July 2023. The most impacted are those who must rely on public charging because they rent, don't have off-street parking, or frequently travel. Comparing with gas-powered predecessors, it may now be economically unfeasible for them to use slower chargers, such as 22 kilowatt. This might prevent people from adopting EVs, especially those who are on a tight budget or live in apartment buildings without charging stations. According to EV, the main cause is growing wholesale electricity prices, which are a result of issues facing the world energy market, including the conflict in Ukraine. Increased operational costs and ongoing infrastructure investments might also contribute to the price hike. Are EVs still cheaper than gas? The response is dependent on multiple circumstances. Driving styles and car efficiency come first. When compared to the majority of gas-powered vehicles, highly efficient EVs that are largely charged at home continue to be more affordable. Even public charging can be less expensive in areas with high gas prices. EVs continue to be more cost-effective in the long run, especially when taking into account their lower maintenance costs and probable future gas price hikes. It's challenging to forecast EV's pricing approach and future electricity rates. Adoption of renewable energy sources and developments in geopolitics will be important factors. EV accessibility may increase with the emergence of more reasonably priced public charging alternatives and possible government subsidies. Some Australian EV drivers now find public charging to be a more costly choice because of EV's pricing increase, particularly those who rely on slower stations. Although this isn't always the case, it does emphasize the need for more accessible and reasonably priced charging infrastructure and raises questions about the cost of EVs. The long-term financial and environmental advantages of EVs continue to be strong in spite of this setback. It is imperative to prioritize effective home charging, encourage dependable public transportation, and investigate substitute options to guarantee a seamless shift to electric vehicles. The comparison of the costs of EV charging versus gas-powered vehicles becomes even more complex when taxes are included. Fuel excise in Australia raises the price of gasoline by about 46 cents per litre, or about 25% more than the pre-GST price. Additionally, the excise and the original fuel price are subject to the 10% goods and services tax, which raises the whole cost even more. It's crucial to keep in mind that electricity is still free in Australia. Public charging depends on more costly, quicker DC solutions. In certain situations, the price increase may make them more expensive than gas, although the exemption from fuel excise still has benefits. Even though EV's price increase makes EV affordability more of a problem, particularly for those who rely on public charging, the fact that there is no longer a gasoline excise is still a big benefit for EVs. Remember that the cost comparison of gas-powered and electric vehicles is still dynamic and dependent on a number of variables. Making decisions based on your needs and evaluating all expenses, including taxes, is essential for surviving in this changing environment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with our journey through the world of innovation. Feel free to share your thoughts and comments below. Stay tuned for more exciting insights into the world of technology and innovation.